So first question, in India, corruption is acceptable as a way of life. How far the recent amendment in the prevention of corruption will help in dealing with this manner? So in India, corruption is acceptable as a way of life, and how far the recent amendments in the Prevention of Corruption Act will help in dealing with this means. So corruption mainly is the important problem, and so it is mainly corruption is acceptable as a way of life in India. So how for the recent amendments? Okay, so amendments is what is Prevention of Corruption Act. That's help will help in dealing with this means. Okay, important it is. Answer: India has been ranked 81st, 81th, 81 first, 81st in the Global Corruption Perception Index. Okay, 81 ranked India for 2017, released by Transparency International. Who is released by Global Corruption Index? Global Corruption Perception Index. It is released by Transparency International 2017 report. It is 81st ranked. Okay, and second ARC. Okay, as second ARC puts in both the collusive and coercive corruption prevail in India, impacting all walks of life. Recent amendments made of to PCA, Prevention of Corruption Act. Recent amendments now we discuss. So recent amendments are bribery. Earlier, there were no specific provisions except as abatement, but under the amendment, giving a bribes is now an offence, published by a 7-year prison term, except when one is forced to give a bribe. So bribery earlier there was no scientific specific provisions except as abatement, but under the amendment given, a bribe is now an offence punishable by a 7-year prison term, except when one is forced to give bribe. Criminal misconduct. Earlier, criminal misconduct used to cover offence including taking bribe habitually, getting anything free or at a concession, obtaining pecuniary advantage for onset for or for another without public interest. Under the amendments, please remember criminal misconduct only. So it is earlier criminal misconduct used to cover offence including taking bribe habitually, getting anything free or at a concessions, obtaining pecuniary advantage to oneself or for another without public interest. Under the amendment to the Act, criminal misconduct will now include only two offences: misappropriating of property entrusted to the banker and amassing, important here. So now, under the amendment to the Act, criminal misconduct will now include only two offences: misappropriating of property entrusted to the banker and amassing as assets disproportionate to known sources of income. Okay, pre-investigation approval. Now, a police officer will need prior approval of relevant authority or government to begin investigation. So, pre-investigation approval. Now a police officer will need prior approval or relevant authority or government to begin investigation. However, the same does not apply when the accused is caught red-handed. So, it is important. So relevant authority or government to begin investigation. So now a police officer will need prior approval or relevant authority or government to begin investigation. However, the same does not apply when the accused is caught red-handed. Sanction for prosecution. A sanction is needed for prosecution former officials for offences done while in office. Okay, the decision sorry sorry The decision on sanction request is to be made under 3 months, which may be extended by a month. Sanctions for prosecution. A sanction is needed for prosecution formal official for offences done while in office. The decision on sanction request is to be made under 3 months, with which may be extended by a month. And forfeiture of property. This section was introduced for the special court. Forfeiture of property. This section was introduced for the special court to attach and confiscate property. Okay, so to attach and confiscate property, which was earlier done under 1944 ordinance through civil courts. Forfeiture of property. The section was introduced by for special courts to attach and confiscate property, which was earlier done under 1944 ordinance through civil courts. Forfeiture of property and sanction of prosecution. Important. So a sanction is needed for prosecution formal officer for offence done while in office. So next analysis, the criminal misconduct provision is intended to protect public servants being wrongly prosecuted for official decisions. Under it, bankers cannot be pulled under the corruption law unless they have accumulated assets more than what they could have obtained with their steady income, or have misappropriated assets entrusted to them. So the criminal misconduct provision is intended to protect public servant from being wrongly prosecuted for official decision. Under it, bankers cannot be pulled under corruption law unless they have accumulated assets more than what they could have obtained with their steady income, or have misappropriated assets entrusted to them. The amendment also intends to empower the public to refuse to give a bribe with provision of punishment for those who willingly offer bribe to the government official. The amendment also intends to empower the public to refuse to give a bribe with provision of punishment for those who willingly offer bribe to the government official. An earlier sanction was required under Prevention of Corruption Act for serving officers only, but now sanction of IPC offences, okay, cover both serving and retired officers. Sorry. Forfeiture of property is believed to have avoid a, a fresh procedure. So forfeiture of property is believed to help avoid a fresh procedure to confiscate property obtained through corruption and to enable court conducting trial to do so itself. So forfeiture of property is believed to help avoid a fresh procedure, okay, to confiscate property obtained or through corruption and to enable court conducting trials to do so itself. The pre-investigation approval rule is a cause for concern as it leads to potential politicization. A rule similar to it was struck down by the Supreme Court. The pre-investigation approval rule, a cause for concern as it leads to potential politicization. A rule similar to it was struck down by the Supreme Court. Thank you.